The mansion of the Al-Rashid family did not simply sit on the hilltop, it ruled it. Its walls glowed ivory white under the evening sky, imported marble shipped from Italy, chandeliers from Vienna, and gardens designed by royal architects. From miles away, the house gleamed like a fortress of wealth. For Malik Darnell, the boy from the forgotten streets of Eastwood, every step up that winding driveway felt heavier than the last. His shoes, polished but old, clicked against stone flown in from Spain. The gates shut behind him with a final metallic thud, as if locking him into a world where he did not belong. Inside, servants moved like shadows, trained to avoid eye contact, golden trays balanced in their hands, whispers exchanged in Arabic and French. Malik adjusted his collar. He wasn't here for the food or the chandeliers or the priceless art. He was here for one reason: to meet the parents of Layla al-Rashid, the woman who had captured his heart. But as soon as he crossed the threshold of the dining hall, the room shifted. At the head of the table sat Sheikh Zahir Al-Rashid, a man whose empire stretched from oil fields in the Gulf to real estate across America, a man who bought senators like stock shares, who bent city councils with a single phone call. His mere silence carried more weight than most men's words. Beside him, his wife Samira, cloaked in pearls and pride, her sharp eyes measuring. Malik as if calculating his worth in dollars, and finding nothing. And there was Layla, radiant, trying to mask her nerves with a smile. She gestured for Malik to sit, her hand brushing his for the briefest second. That single touch gave him courage. The table stretched endlessly, lined with crystal glasses, silver cutlery, dishes still steaming from kitchens below. Malik lowered himself onto the velvet chair, heart pounding like a drum, and then it happened. As he leaned forward, the small pendant around his neck slipped from under his shirt. A golden necklace, dull with age, carrying an engraving almost too delicate to see. The light of the chandelier caught it perfectly. Sheikh Zahir's laughter, mid-sentence, stopped. His glass slipped from his hand, crashing against the marble. Red wine spilled like blood across the tablecloth. The servants froze. Samira gasped. Even Layla turned pale. But Zahir? He did not move. His powerful hands trembled against the table, his eyes locked on that necklace like it was a ghost. For on that pendant, etched in fading Arabic calligraphy, were two words he thought he had buried decades ago. The crimson stain of spilled wine spread across the snow-white cloth like a wound no one dared to touch. The crash of crystal had silenced the entire hall. Even the flickering candles seemed to hesitate in their glow. Sheikh Zahir Al-Rashid, man of steel and empire, sat motionless. His jaw tightened, but his eyes refused to look away from the pendant dangling just inches from Malik Darnell's chest. For a moment, no one breathed. "Baba?" Layla's voice, soft and uncertain, broke the stillness. Her hand reached across the table toward her father's trembling wrist. "What's wrong? Why are you—" "Enough!" Zahir's voice cut sharp, like the slice of a blade. The servants jolted back, stepping into the shadows. Samira leaned forward, her rings glinting in the light. "Zahir, what is it? You've gone pale." Her tone carried more anger than concern. Appearances were her true religion. The sheikh forced a laugh, a brittle sound, hollow, unconvincing. "It is nothing," he said, though his hand continued to tremble. "A necklace, a trinket, surprising resemblance, that is all." But his eyes betrayed him. They had locked onto the engraving burned into gold, Soraya, eternally. Malik, confused yet respectful, tucked the pendant back beneath his shirt. "It's nothing special," he said carefully. "Just the only thing left from my mother. She died when I was very young." The room stiffened again. Samira's gaze sharpened like a hawk's. "Your mother?" she asked. "And who was she exactly?" Malik hesitated. He had rehearsed this moment 100 times, imagining different reactions: anger, curiosity, dismissal. But not this suffocating silence, not this air so heavy with unspoken dread. "I never knew her," Malik admitted. "Her name was never on the records, just this necklace. The nuns at St. Bridget's orphanage told me it was found in my cradle, St. Bridget's." The name hit Zahir like a hammer against stone. His hand gripped the edge of the table until his knuckles went white. A murmur slipped from the servants at the far end. An older butler, his Arabic accent thick, whispering too loudly, "That necklace, it cannot be." "Silence!" Zahir roared, rising to his feet. His chair scraped back, toppling against the floor. The servants shrank like shadows before fire. Layla jumped to her feet. "Father, why are you frightening him? Malik hasn't done anything." But Malik wasn't frightened. Not anymore. He was watching every twitch, every shiver in Sheikh Zahir's face. The pieces in his mind began to click into place. The necklace wasn't just jewelry, it was a key. And Sheikh Zahir Al-Rashid was a man standing at the door. It unlocked. The air in the dining hall grew heavy, thicker than the scent of saffron lamb and cardamom rice that now sat untouched. Malik Darnell leaned back slowly in his chair, steadying his breath. For years he had been told that he had no past, no roots. Yet the way Sheikh Zahir's entire body reacted to one glimpse of that necklace, it confirmed what Malik had always suspected. "Mr. Al-Rashid," Malik began politely, though his voice carried an edge, "may I ask why my pendant troubles you so much? You looked as though you had seen a ghost." Zahir stiffened, his hands curled into fists at his side. "I told you already. It is meaningless. An old design. Many like it exist." Samira cut in sharply, her eyes narrowing. "This is absurd. A street boy comes here, wearing scraps of gold, and suddenly we are treating it as if it were a royal seal. Layla, explain yourself. Where did you find him?" "Mother," Layla's voice cracked with emotion, "Malik isn't just some boy. He's my—" She stopped herself, her cheeks flushing. "He's my choice, and he deserves respect." But respect was the last thing Malik received. Zahir's laugh, cold, humorless, echoed off the marble walls. "Respect? Do you know who sits at this table, boy?" His words thundered with the weight of empire. "Presidents dine with me. Generals bow before me. You think you deserve a seat here?" Malik's jaw tightened. He felt the heat rise in his chest, but his voice remained calm. "I didn't ask for a seat, sir. I only asked for honesty." The words hit harder than any insult. Layla looked between the two men, confusion twisting her features. "Honesty? About what?" Malik slowly reached for the pendant again, letting it fall against the table with a soft metallic tap. His fingers brushed the engraving, tracing each letter. "This necklace isn't just jewelry," he said softly. "It's a message, a memory, and it belonged to someone very important, someone named Soraya." The name was a spark in dry grass. Zahir froze. Samira's lips parted in shock. Even the servants exchanged fearful glances. How do you know that name?" Zahir demanded, his voice breaking for the first time. Malik met his gaze without blinking. "Because I've been searching for her, for years, and every clue, every lead, eventually brought me here. To you." The silence that followed was deafening, and in that silence, for the first time in his life, Malik saw it clearly. The unshakable, untouchable Sheikh Zahir Al-Rashid was terrified. The silence in the hall was broken only by the faint ticking of a grandfather clock, its golden hand slicing through the thick tension second by second. Sheikh Zahir's eyes darted to the necklace, then back to Malik. "You speak of ghosts, boy. Do not dare bring such names into my house again. Soraya is nothing but dust." The moment the name left his lips, Samira stiffened. Her painted nails dug into the armrest of her chair. He knew the name. Malik's lips curved, not in a smile but in grim certainty. "So you do remember her?" Zahir's face hardened, but Malik reached into the inner pocket of his worn jacket. The servants leaned forward. Samira clutched her pearls. Slowly, Malik drew out a thin leather folder, cracked at the edges from years of use. He placed it gently on the white tablecloth, sliding it across until it rested before the sheikh. "Open it," Malik said. "I will not," Zahir growled. "Then I will." Malik flipped it open himself. Inside were photocopied documents, yellowed birth certificates, a faded photograph of a woman with hauntingly familiar eyes, and a letter written in delicate Arabic script. Layla leaned closer, whispering, "What is this?" "My past," Malik replied, "or what little I've managed to piece together." He tapped the photograph. "This is Soraya, the woman who wore this necklace before it was passed to me. The woman the records say once traveled under your sponsorship, Sheikh Zahir." Zahir's hands clenched into fists, but Malik wasn't finished. He pulled out another paper, an official orphanage file. "St. Bridget's," Malik said firmly. "Where I was left as an infant. No name, no father listed. Only one clue. The anonymous benefactor who paid for my care for the first 3 years." The Sheikh's breath caught. Malik's voice sharpened. "The payments came from your accounts, Sheikh. I traced them. Quiet transfers, buried under shell companies. But money leaves trails. Even yours." Samira's eyes widened in horror, her face draining of color. She turned sharply toward her husband. "Zahir, is this true? Did you—" "Silence, woman," Zahir thundered, slamming his fist onto the table so hard the crystal goblets trembled. His mask of calm authority had cracked, rage spilling out like a storm he could no longer contain. But Malik did not flinch. He leaned forward, his eyes burning into the Sheikh's. "You can shout at her, you can threaten me, but papers don't lie." The documents lay open on the table, their ink screaming the truth louder than any words could. And for the first time, the mighty Sheikh Zahir Al-Rashid looked cornered. The documents lay on the silk table runner like poison, their edges curling under the chandelier's glow. Malik's hand rested calmly on them, as though he had all the time in the world. Sheikh Zahir, however, had lost his composure, his face flushed, veins visible on his temple. He looked less like a man of power, and more like an animal trapped in a cage of his own making. "You insolent child," Zahir hissed. "Do you think a few forged papers and old photographs can stain the name of Al-Rashid?" Malik's voice was steady, unshaken. "Forged? Then why did your hands tremble when you saw the necklace? Why did you call out Soraya's name before anyone else did?" Samira's breath caught. She turned sharply toward her husband, her voice rising like a whip. "Zahir, answer him. Who is this woman? And why would you pay to keep his orphanage running in secret?" Zahir slammed his fist against the table again, sending silver cutlery clattering. "Because pity is part of charity. Because a man of my wealth must sometimes give to the gutter, lest the world call him heartless." Malik leaned forward, eyes sharp, his words slicing through the Sheikh's excuse. "No, not charity. You didn't do it for strangers. You did it for me. Because you knew who I was." The servants exchanged nervous glances. A low murmur rose, like the rustle of dry leaves in wind. They had heard rumors before, about the Sheikh's affairs, about a woman who had vanished from his life without a trace, but never had anyone dared say it aloud. Layla's hand trembled as she reached for the photograph on the table. Her eyes widened as she studied the woman's face. She looks like me," she whispered. Samira snatched the paper from her daughter's hand, staring at it as if it burned her. This cannot be." Her voice cracked, trembling between rage and fear, but Malik wasn't finished. His tone shifted, colder now, his gaze fixed on Zahir. "You sit here on a throne of gold, preaching dignity, bloodlines, and purity. You mock people like me for our skin, our accent, our poverty. But behind your walls of marble, you hide your own sins." Zahir's nostrils flared, but Malik pressed on. "You call me unworthy because I am black, because I come from the streets. Yet your empire isn't built on purity, it's built on lies, on betrayals, on abandoning the people you claim to love." The Sheikh rose to his feet, shaking with fury. "How dare you? You think you can lecture me? I am Zahir Al-Rashid. My name commands nations." But Malik cut him off, his voice rising for the first time. "Your name commands fear, nothing more. And fear crumbles the moment truth steps into the light." The hall fell silent. The words hung heavy in the air, impossible to erase. For the first time, everyone at that table, and everyone watching from the shadows of the mansion, saw the cracks spreading across Sheikh Zahir's mask of power. The chandelier's light flickered as though it too sensed the storm in the room. Zahir Al-Rashid stood, his chest heaving, his pride wounded. But Malik did not yield. He pressed harder, his calm voice now sharpened with iron. "You think this is about one necklace? One woman? No, Sheikh. This is about the empire you've built on bones and secrets." Zahir's glare could have burned stone. "Watch your tongue, boy." But Malik leaned forward, pulling another folder from his bag, thicker this time, bound with rusted clips. He spread its contents across the dining table: ledgers, bank statements, photographs, oil contracts signed with governments you bribed, land seized from families under the guise of HOA regulations, and shell companies, hundreds of them, hiding the money you bled from workers who never saw a fair wage. The servants stiffened. Some turned away. Others dared to glance at the Sheikh with silent disgust. Samira's hand shot to her mouth. "Zahir, my God, is this true?" But Malik wasn't finished. He held up a glossy photograph, children with hollow eyes, standing in the shadow of half-built construction sites. "These," he said, his voice breaking slightly, "are the workers you left unpaid. I found them in Azra's quarter, living without water, without food, while you," he jabbed a finger toward the sheikh, "paraded yourself as a savior of communities." Layla's lips trembled. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, "Father, is this why they spit at our name outside the gates? Is this why no one trusts us?" Zahir slammed both hands on the table, but his voice cracked with desperation. "Lies, slander. This boy fabricates." Malik's hand slid calmly to the last page in the pile, a printed email. He pushed it across the table toward Layla. "Read it," he said softly. Layla's shaking hands lifted the page. Her eyes moved across the words, disbelief darkening into horror. She gasped. It's signed by you, Father. An instruction to evict a family over a 2-day late HOA fee. You," she choked, tears spilling, "you ordered them thrown into the streets." Samira rose from her chair, her face white as marble. "Zahir, is this the empire you built for us? On broken families? On lies?" The sheikh staggered back, his breathing ragged, fury colliding with fear. His mask was crumbling before his wife, his daughter, his staff. And Malik, calm, steady, relentless, looked him dead in the eye. "You call yourself a ruler," he said, "but rulers protect. You are nothing but a thief dressed in silk." The words echoed like a verdict. The servant's silence was no longer fear. It was judgment, and for the first time, Sheikh Zahir Al-Rashid seemed small. The once grand dining hall now felt like a courtroom, every eye fixed on the trembling sheikh. Papers and photographs lay scattered across the table like shards of truth that cut deeper than any blade. Zahir's breath came heavy, his once commanding voice reduced to sputters of denial. "You think you can destroy me with files? With papers anyone could forge?" Malik's lips curled in the faintest trace of a smile. He leaned back, pulling a small black device from his pocket. Sleek, unassuming, a recorder. The sheikh froze. "This," Malik said quietly, "is not paper. This is your own voice." He placed the recorder on the table and pressed play. The room filled with static for a moment. Then came the unmistakable sound of Zahir's voice, recorded in cold, calculated arrogance. "Raise the HOA fees. Triple them. If they cannot pay, evict them. Fear is the only way to keep these people in line. Do not waste pity on peasants." Samira staggered back as if struck. Her hand covered her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. "Zahir. Oh God." Layla's face twisted in anguish. "Father, you said those rumors weren't true. You swore to me." The recording continued, merciless. "And if anyone resists, make an example. Call the police. Plant drugs, charges, whatever is needed. I will not have my community stained with the filth of disobedience." The hall went dead silent. Even the ticking of the clock seemed to vanish. Malik stopped the playback and leaned forward, his voice calm but sharp as glass. "I could send this to every journalist in the city, to the courts, to the families you ruined. By morning, your empire would burn to the ground." Zahir's body trembled with rage, but his eyes betrayed something far worse, fear. "You wouldn't dare," he hissed. Malik's gaze locked onto his, unwavering. "Try me." For the first time in his life, the mighty Sheikh Zahir Al-Rashid looked across the table and saw not a poor boy, but his executioner. The servants whispered like a rising tide. Samira collapsed into her chair, her face in her hands. Layla clutched the table for balance, her world unraveling before her eyes. And Malik? He sat steady, his finger resting lightly on the recorder. His weapon, his shield, his power. The boy who once had nothing now held the fate of an empire in his hands. Zahir's knuckles whitened against the carved armrest of his chair. The once mighty sheikh, a man feared in boardrooms and revered in palaces, now looked like a prisoner awaiting judgment. Malik leaned forward, folding his hands calmly on the table. His voice was steady, deliberate, each word a nail in the coffin of Zahir's authority. "I didn't come here for your wealth or your power. I came here for justice." The silence cracked like thunder. Samira lifted her tear-stained face. "Justice? For what?" Malik's eyes flickered toward her, then back to Zahir. For every family evicted from their homes because they couldn't pay inflated fees. For the workers you underpaid and discarded like trash. For the mother who died outside a hospital because your company cut her health insurance. And for my own mother, who cleaned your halls for 15 years, only to be cast aside when she fell ill. Layla gasped. Your mother worked for us? Malik's jaw tightened. Yes, Mariam. She gave her life to this house while you feasted and thrived. And when she begged for help, your father said she was a liability. She died alone. Because of him. Samira broke into sobs. Zahir, is this true? The sheikh could no longer meet her eyes. His silence was answer enough. Malik pulled a folded document from his satchel and placed it on the table. My demands are simple. 1. Every tenant you exploited will receive compensation, paid from your fortune, not from insurance tricks or corporate schemes. 2. A foundation will be built in my mother's name, the Mariam Foundation. Its sole purpose will be scholarships for children of low-income families, so no child grows up feeling powerless the way I did. 3. His eyes narrowed, burning with resolve. You will make this announcement yourself, publicly, on camera. The sheikh, who crushed thousands, will admit his crimes before the world. Zahir slammed his fist on the table, trying to summon the authority he once commanded. Never. You think you can dictate terms to me? I am Zahir Al-Rashid. Malik's finger hovered over the recorder. Then by morning, you'll be Zahir Al-Rashid, the tyrant whose crimes went viral across the globe. Do you really want your legacy to be nothing more than scandal, lawsuits, and prison bars? The sheikh's rage faltered into despair. He looked around the table, but there was no ally left. His wife wept openly. His daughter stared at him with betrayal in her eyes. The servants whispered from the shadows. For the first time in decades, Zahir Al-Rashid had no power left to wield. And Malik knew it. This isn't revenge, Malik said softly. It's redemption. You can choose it, or you can be destroyed by your own arrogance. The decision is yours. The grand dining hall was so silent that even the sound of the chandelier's crystals swaying could be heard. Zahir Al-Rashid's chest heaved with the weight of a lifetime of secrets pressing down on him. His hands, once steady as steel, now trembled as they rested on the polished wood. His empire, his family, his dignity, everything was collapsing in a single night. Malik slid the recorder closer. Say it, the truth. Let the world hear it from your own lips. Zahir's lips parted, but no sound emerged. His pride fought desperately against his guilt. Finally, with a voice cracked and broken, he spoke. Yes, I did it. Gasps filled the room. Even the servants at the doorway clutched each other in disbelief. I exploited families. I forced evictions. I silenced workers who begged for fairness. I watched people suffer while I built palaces and dined with kings. And Mariam, his voice choked, tears forming in his eyes for the first time in decades. She begged me for help, and I turned her away. She died because of me. Samira buried her face in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. Layla's tears rolled silently. Her gaze locked on her father with a mixture of pity and disgust. Zahir's words echoed like thunder across the empty room. I am guilty. Everything he says is true, and I will pay, with money, with reputation, whatever it takes. Just spare my daughter from this shame. Malik stood frozen for a moment. The titan of wealth and arrogance, the untouchable sheikh, was on his knees in front of him, begging. But before Malik could respond, the door to the hall burst open. A tall man in a navy suit strode in, flanked by 2 bodyguards. His face was sharp, his eyes colder than glass. He carried no emotion, only authority. Mr. Zahir Al-Rashid, the man said in flawless Arabic-accented English, flashing a badge. I'm Agent Carter, U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation. You're under investigation for money laundering, international bribery, and racketeering. The room froze. Malik blinked, stunned. The FBI? Agent Carter's eyes flicked toward him. And you, Malik Idris, we've been monitoring your movements too. You've uncovered evidence we've been chasing for years. He held up a folder, filled with documents Malik thought only he possessed. Everything you have is already in our files. Your confrontation tonight just sealed the case. Zahir's face went pale, his last hope crumbling. You planned this, he whispered. You didn't just want me to confess to my family, you wanted me delivered to them. Malik didn't move. He hadn't planned this part. But as the reality sank in, he realized his fight had unleashed forces far greater than himself. The empire of Zahir Al-Rashid was no longer just cracking. It was about to be dismantled by international law, and Malik was now entangled in something much larger than personal revenge. The once untouchable Sheikh Zahir Al-Rashid sat slumped in a leather chair, wrists trembling as the FBI agents read him his rights. His world, built over 4 decades of oil, money, and manipulation, was crumbling, not with an explosion, but with a whisper of truth finally spoken aloud. Samira screamed, trying to shield her husband. "You can't take him. He's the pillar of this family, of this community." Agent Carter's tone was cold, unyielding. "Ma'am, he's the pillar of corruption. And pillars like that eventually fall." Zahir's daughter Layla, tears streaming, stepped back into the shadows. For the first time in her life, she saw the man behind the wealth, not a father, but a fraud. Malik stood motionless. This was the moment he had dreamed of for years, the tyrant stripped of power, begging for mercy. Yet victory did not feel like triumph. It felt heavy. As the agents prepared to escort Zahir away, the sheikh lifted his eyes to Malik one last time. "You think you've won?" His voice was hoarse. "No son of Mariam will ever replace me. The world forgets its saviors, it only remembers its kings." Malik stepped forward, his voice steady but sharp as a blade. "You're wrong. The world remembers those who suffer because of kings, and it remembers those who stand up for them. That's the legacy you'll leave. Destruction. Mine will be different." The agents pulled Zahir away. His footsteps echoed down the marble hall like the tolling of a funeral bell. The empire of Zahir Al-Rashid was finished. Weeks later, the media was ablaze with the scandal. Headlines screamed across the globe: Arab oil tycoon arrested in international corruption probe. Whistleblower orphan brings billionaire to justice. Court documents revealed the depth of Zahir's crimes: offshore accounts, bribes, forced evictions. The once proud family name had become a symbol of disgrace. But out of the ashes, something new began to rise. With the assets seized by international courts, Malik launched the Mariam Foundation, named after his mother. It provided free housing for evicted families, scholarships for underprivileged students, and legal aid for workers trapped under abusive contracts. At the foundation's inauguration, Malik stood at the podium, wearing his mother's old pendant, no longer a relic of pain, but a symbol of resilience. He looked out at the crowd of children, families, and reporters. His voice carried strength, but also humility. "My mother once told me, we may not have power, but we have truth. And truth, one day, will find its voice. Tonight, this is her voice. This foundation is not just for me or for her. It's for every soul crushed under the weight of greed. We cannot erase the past, but we can build a future where justice isn't bought, where no child grows up powerless." The audience erupted in applause. Some wept openly. Even Layla, hidden in the back, clapped with trembling hands, a silent acknowledgement of Malik's strength and a quiet goodbye to the life she once knew. Years passed. Malik's foundation spread across continents. Thousands of children went to schools, families reclaimed dignity, and the ghost of Mariam's suffering was transformed into light. As for Zahir Al-Rashid, he spent his final years in a prison cell, his name cursed in boardrooms and forgotten in history books. His wealth was gone, his power erased. One evening, Malik visited a new orphanage built in Marrakesh under his foundation's name. He watched the children play in the courtyard, their laughter echoing into the twilight. A journalist beside him asked, "Do you feel you've finally taken revenge?" Malik smiled faintly, touching the pendant at his chest. "Revenge is temporary. Justice is eternal. My story isn't about destroying a man. It's about ensuring his victims rise again. That's the only revenge worth having." The camera flash captured his face against the sunset, not a boy born in shame, but a man who turned pain into power, scars into purpose. And thus, the story closed. A tyrant fell. An orphan rose, and the world learned that true wealth is not measured in gold or oil, but in the lives we lift when we choose justice over vengeance. Empires rise on the shoulders of men who believe they are untouchable, but history has shown no empire is too mighty, no crown too heavy to escape the weight of truth. Sheikh Zahir Al-Rashid built his kingdom on greed, silence, and fear. Tonight it crumbled, not by armies, not by wealth, but by the courage of one forgotten son. Malik Idris, once dismissed as powerless, proved that justice needs no fortune, no title, no bloodline, only the strength to speak when the world demands silence. From the ashes of oppression, the Mariam Foundation was born, a light for the children who once had no voice, proof that legacies are not carved in stone palaces, but in the lives we lift and the futures we protect. And so the question remains, when power tempts us, when arrogance blinds us, will we choose the path of Zahir or the path of Malik? Because in the end, wealth fades, thrones crumble, but justice endures.